Okay, good morning, everyone. Bill Lester here, and with University of Florida IFAS Extension Service in Hernando County, and welcome to this week's virtual plant clinic. I am here all by myself today. My regular co-host Lily Browning had another meeting that she had to attend, and I wasn't able to line up another co-host or another guest, so it is just you and I today. So if you have any lawn and garden questions, good morning, buddy. How are you? Buddy from Tallahassee. Either Tallahassee or Pensacola. I think Tallahassee is here with us this morning, and you're probably getting some pretty nasty weather up there right now. I know it's heading this way and supposed to be here this evening, but for today, it's just you guys and me. And if you have any lawn and garden questions, just go ahead and type them in the chat box, and I'll do my very best to answer them. But let me go ahead and share a couple things here really quick. If you're ever interested in what kind of classes we have coming up, because I do a lot of classes with Lily, of course, and everybody else in our office does classes. Every week we have the virtual plant clinic here. If you need any information on that, just go to www.hernandoextension.com. And we have a full listing of all of our classes right there. And whether we're doing it on Facebook Live or Zoom or StreamYard or exactly how we're doing it, and it's even hard for me to keep straight some days, you get all the information you're going to need from right there. If you have any other questions and you want to get in touch with our office, there is the phone number. It's 352-754-4433. And you can call. We're open. Our office is open. We're practicing social distancing still because of COVID-19. We ask that you wear a mask if you stop by our office in person. But if you have a turf grass sample or a leaf or a bug in a jar or any other kind of container that you want identified, please feel free to stop by our office. And chances are you're going to encounter Teresa because she's always there. I'm there sometimes, but not very often. And Teresa's more than happy to help you out. And if it's something that I need to look at or identify, she gets it to me, and we'll get those questions answered for you. If you have any questions and you have pictures of a tree or a plant or an insect, please feel free to send me an email. There's my email address, wlester@ufl.edu. And a lot of times we're able to answer a lot of questions through pictures sent through either email or text. And I have a couple pictures from a lady. She sent it to me just yesterday, I believe, of a crepe myrtle that she had her service prune. And they, believe it or not, they actually did a very, very good job. So I'm going to share those pictures in just a few minutes here. What else do we have? If you have any questions and you would like one of our master gardeners that helps at the office answer them, please feel free to shoot them an email. There is their email address. And today is Thursday. All day today, we have our master gardener, Bernie, at the office. So today is a very good day to go by the office because even though I'm not there, Bernie's there, and he's more than happy to look at turf grass samples, insects, diseased plants, pictures, whatever. We have people bring in palm tree fronds and branches and unusual fruits, and they're not really sure what it's coming off of. And we have a lot of people moving to the area, and they're not really sure exactly what is growing in their yard. So they cut off samples and bring them by the office. Feel free to bring all that by. Today's a really good day to bring that into the office because Bernie is there to answer all your questions. So Buddy says, yeah, there's tornado warnings in Tallahassee. I think there's supposed to possibly be some for Central Florida later on today. So everybody be aware. Batten down the hatches. If you have any loose gardening tools or gardening equipment outside, you probably want to bring them indoors or batten them down somehow. Dan's here from Point Siena in Osceola County. Good morning, Dan, and welcome. You're going to get some bad weather also, but a little bit after us, probably a little bit later on tonight. So be advised and best of luck. And Here we have a question from Janice. And Janice is asking about strawberries, net or no net. And I think what she's asking about is when you grow strawberries, when they start to turn ripe, obviously they turn red, and it becomes very visible to birds, squirrels, variety of other animals. So a lot of people have problems growing small fruits and keeping the birds and the other animals off of them so that they get a harvest. I mean, we all learned when we were young about sharing, but you just don't want to share all your strawberries with the birds. So there is plastic bird netting that you can purchase and put either over strawberries. People use it over their blueberry bushes and blackberry bushes to help keep the birds off. It works. It can be effective. You do have to put up stakes to keep the netting up above the plant, because if the netting is laying on top of the plant, a bird will land on the netting and just poke his beak through the holes in the netting and still get to your fruits. So you have to suspend the netting up above the plants a little bit. Sounds like Janice has some premature browning, and she quit the drip watering to see if that was the problem. Maybe bugs getting at them. Let's see, with strawberries, if you're using drip irrigation and you're watering just the base of the plants and just the roots, that generally works very well. Of course, you don't want to overwater. You need to kind of play with and fine tune the watering so that you're applying enough water, but not too much. Strawberries don't like really wet feet. They don't like to grow in extremely wet or muddy soils. Premature browning, there are a variety of different fungal diseases that you can get with strawberries, and that's going to affect the fruit. You can get gray mold. The technical name for that is botrytis, and that's the fungus that gets on strawberries, and they get really fuzzy. They start to look like a little cotton ball. That could be a problem. There are a variety of insect pests that can get on strawberries. Probably one of the most common ones that commercial people have to deal with is spider mites, and spider mites are extremely small. So Janice, you might want to get yourself a hand lens, which is just a magnifying glass. It's a little magnifying glass, and you can buy them online. I've bought them before from Amazon.com. If you search under loupes, Loupe, that's a little hand lens, and jewelers use them. People who collect insects and stamps and coins use them. Anything that you need a small magnifying glass for, and they're very handy when you're trying to figure out what might be feeding on your plants. You can pick a leaf off the strawberries, and you have your hand lens, and you hold it up. It kind of works like a miniature microscope to get a good look. And if you do have spider mites, if you use a hand lens, you're going to be able to see them. They're very, very small. They have 8 legs. They crawl around. And if you have a problem with spider mites, insecticidal soap works very well generally. Any kind of oil spray is going to work well also. The problem is pretty soon you're going to want to stop using those oil sprays, because when it starts to get sunny and hot, the oil spray can act like, if you go to the beach and you put baby oil all over yourself and you spend the whole day at the beach, you basically fry. The oil concentrates the sun's rays on your skin. The same thing can happen to a plant's leaf. So using any kind of oil sprays on plants after we get a little bit further into spring and it starts to get hot and very, very sunny, the days are longer, the sun is more intense. If you use an oil spray on your plants, you may fry all the leaves, and you come out the next day and it looks like you used a flamethrower on your plants. It's because you used an oil spray and it had a phytotoxic reaction. So be careful with the oil sprays. It's safe to use insecticidal soap. Check your strawberries very, very closely for insects that may be on it, keeping in mind some of those insects are very, very small. You're going to need a magnifying glass or some kind of help to be able to see them, and that is going to help. But strawberry season is going to be winding up in Florida pretty soon. You can keep getting strawberries for maybe the next month or so, but after that, it just gets too hot, too humid, too wet, too sunny, and it's all really, really tough on strawberries because they grow really well during the winter here, but not during the summer. So pretty soon, strawberry season is going to kind of wind up and come to a close. Generally, you're going to want to pull those plants up. Trying to keep them over the summer is really, really difficult. You're going to have to use a lot of fungicides, a lot of insecticides. If you want to do that, you can try, but be aware it's not going to be easy. And then plan on ordering fresh new plants next fall and putting them in again next October and growing a whole nother crop next winter. That's what the commercial growers do. They don't keep their strawberries going year after year after year. When they're done, they pull them, they move on, they plant eggplants and hot peppers and squash and cantaloupes. That's what all the farmers in Plant City are going to be doing starting really soon. And they get a whole nother crop, and then they do strawberries again next fall. So timing is very, very important, guys. Okay, Cindy's here from Pinellas County. Good morning, Cindy. How are you doing? Cindy's one of our regulars. And then, yeah, Janice followed up with her strawberries are not getting eaten by birds, but they are browning. So birds can be a problem. Fortunately, I guess you're not having that problem. Squirrels can be a problem also. If you have a lot of squirrels in your neighborhood and they find out that you're growing strawberries, they can be a problem too. So be aware. You may not want to be feeding and attracting too many squirrels to your yard if you're growing strawberries at the same time. That could be a problem. And Carl says, good morning. Good morning, Carl. How are you? And then with treating those mites for Janus on the strawberries, generally insecticidal soap is going to work just fine. You're probably going to have to spray more than once. You need to spray thoroughly, making sure that you hit the undersides of all the leaves. But insecticidal soap, and I'm not talking about the stuff that you wash your dishes with, because almost all of those now are dish detergents, and detergents are very, very tough on plant leaves. Insecticidal soap is a type of soap, but it's a different chemical, and you have to get that from a lawn and garden center or a big box store, or you can order it online. Gosh, you can order, I think, pretty much everything online nowadays. And I do that a lot at work. It's just so convenient. I just go on, tick, 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 order the stuff up. The next day I have my insecticidal soap, I have my fungicide, I have whatever I had to order for work. Just can't beat it. But insecticidal soap is going to work really well on spider mites, but you need to do it probably more than once. You have to be diligent. And with the neem oil, right now it's probably still safe to use neem oil, but very, very soon it's not going to be. It's cloudy today because of those nasty storms that are up in the Panhandle heading this way. But my guess is that within the next week or 2 or 3 at the tops, all of a sudden it's going to seem like spring came and went, and all of a sudden we're into summer. It can happen very, very quickly a lot of years here this time of year. So when it feels like we're in summer and it's hot and it's sunny, then you probably want to put the oils. That'd be neem oil, that's horticultural oil, which works very, very well for scales. You want to put those away for the summer and not use them again until next fall. Because even though you can use them on some plants and they don't have a reaction, other plants will have a terrible reaction. A couple years ago, I did an internship for a small community-supported farm in DeLand, Florida. And John was a real nice guy. He grew all kinds of vegetables there, and he grew pole beans. And I think he had spider mites, or he had some other kind of problem on his pole beans. And it was getting into late spring, early summer. I can't remember exactly when it was. But he sprayed all of his pole beans with neem oil to get rid of the bugs. And oh my gosh, they just completely, all the leaves dried up the next day. It was like overnight, had a huge effect on them. And it didn't kill the plants. They did grow back, but he lost like 2 or 3 weeks worth of production off of them for all the existing leaves to turn brown, dry up, fall off. The plants survived and they sprouted new leaves, but he lost a lot of production because of that. So we always tell people to be very, very careful with oils You may still be able to use it on certain plants, but obviously not pole beans, and a lot of other plants are going to have bad reactions also. So I guess that's my speech for today on oil sprays, using them at the correct time of year. So Heidi, and I guess Heidi is a new viewer. I've never seen Heidi ask a question before. She says, I heard that planting strawberries in a container holding a larger tree is a good measure for moisture in the soil because they will wilt easy if too dry. Is that true? Yes. Yeah, that's true. Because if you, and you can grow strawberries in a container very, very well. A lot of people do that. They even have the old-fashioned strawberry pots that are made out of clay, and they have the holes on the side, and each hole you can tuck a strawberry plant in, and the strawberries spill over the pot. Looks very, very attractive on the back porch. So growing strawberries in a pot works really well. You could put strawberries and tuck them around a larger plant growing in a large pot, but it needs to be a large enough pot to support the tree or shrub or perennial, whatever else you're growing in there, along with the strawberries. And what's going to happen is chances are the strawberries are going to dry out first, and the larger plant might dry out second. So the strawberries are going to be a good indicator that you're going to need to water the container. But if you're growing anything in a container and the plants are fairly large, containers dry out very, very quickly. So you need to plan on checking them every day and probably watering them every day. I grow a lot of vegetables in different size pots, anywhere from like 1 gallon, 3 gallon, 5 gallon pots. I've grown vegetables in 5 gallon buckets before, which works really well because it's a good size. You do have to drill drain holes at the bottom, but just break out the power drill and get, a large drill bit, drill a few holes. Very easy to do, but you have to watch them very carefully. Those things tend to need watering every single day. So yeah, that's a great idea. And a lot of people might not think about this. It could be very attractive also. So if you put a little bit of thought into it, you get an attractive clay pot or container, you put an attractive flowering plant in the center, strawberries around the edge. The strawberries are going to trail and vine and hang over the edge, can look very, very attractive. It's the kind of thing that you can put even by your front door, even if you live in a homeowners association, and you can grow strawberries that you can eat. And you could even plant another plant in the center that you can eat also. So you don't always have to grow ornamentals in a homeowners association. If you're creative and tricky, you can squeeze a lot of edible things in there too. And good morning, Sean. How are you? Sean's one of our master gardeners. He said he's ordered insecticidal soap concentrate online. Yeah, you can buy it in a bottle where it's already pre-mixed, and it's just a spray bottle. It's take it out of the package and go outside and start spraying. Or you can order the concentrate, and the concentrate's a lot cheaper, but you need to mix it and follow the directions on the label, and you're going to have to get some kind of, I usually just get a 1 gallon pump sprayer. You could pick one of those up for $10 or less at a big box store and mix up your own. It's a lot cheaper. An insecticidal soap is very, very handy. Works very well on a lot of insect pests. And it's very, if you follow the directions, safe for you, the user, to apply, and very safe for pets and neighbors and birds and lizards and everything else that's, living out in your backyard. So it's a very safe and effective one to use. So Janice says, I planted a lemon tree and avocado tree from grocery store fruit seed. They're growing tall. The lemon tree is about 3 feet. The avocado tree is 2 years old and 5 feet. I've heard they won't give fruit. Is that true? Yes and no. They will give, well, first of all, if your lemon tree is 3 feet tall and your avocado tree is 2 years old and it's about 5 feet tall, you probably live south of Hernando County. You probably live more in South Florida. And if you grow those kind of things down in South Florida, they can grow very, very quickly. The problem is if you start any kind of citrus or an avocado from a seed, it has to grow for a number of years. As a general rule, and this depends where in Florida you live, as a general rule, it's going to take 3 to 5 years to get old enough where it leaves its juvenile period. Any kind of fruit tree, if you start it from seed, it'll sprout, it'll grow, and it goes through what we call juvenile period. It has to grow through it and then start to go into its adult period for it to flower and get fruit and hold on to that fruit. And the tree is going to decide when that happens. There's nothing you can do to hurry it up or convince it to end it's like your kids. They're going to end their juvenile period when they end it. It's kind of, you may want them to end their juvenile period a couple years earlier, but they're going to magically go into adulthood and then flower and fruit. Here in Central Florida, that's going to take 5 years or more. North Florida is going to take even longer. South Florida, because citrus and avocados grow year-round, they really never stop growing like they do here in Central Florida, it's going to take a little bit less time. Now, your lemon tree will get citrus, and your avocado tree will get avocados, but they probably will not get the exact same fruit that you got the seed from, because most of those things are different hybrids. They're grafted fruit trees. So your lemon tree will get citrus. It may not be the same kind of lemon that the seed came from, and your avocado tree will get an avocado, but it may be a very different variety or type than what you got, than the avocado that you initially got the seed from. And if nothing else, avocado trees are very attractive. They make a good patio plant in a large enough container. Remember, the bigger they get, the bigger the container has to be. They can be very attractive in your yard, even if they never flower and get fruit. But if you live in South Florida, you will eventually, and you have to be patient, but you will eventually get some kind of fruit off of it. And you're just going to have to experiment and see if it's a tasty lemon or maybe a not so good tasting lemon. And that's really hard to say until that day comes. So we have a question here from our Facebook group. And they have a raised garden box with strawberry plants in them for 2 to 3 years. You can do that. And I know people who keep their strawberries going for years on end. It can be very, very difficult because they start to have so many insect pests and diseases during the summer. Summer is going to be the really, really tough time of year on any kind of strawberries. And they say so far they have not produced at all, or maybe only 1 or 2 fruits. What can I do to have the plants to start fruiting? This all depends on exactly what kind of strawberry plants you got and where they came from. If you're trying to grow varieties that grow up north, they're probably not going to produce well down here in Florida because they need a long cold period like they have up north that we just don't get here in Florida. So it all depends on what type of strawberries they are. Commercial grower, when you buy the Florida strawberries, so you go to Plant City or the Strawberry Festival that just happened a few weeks ago, they grow certain varieties of strawberries. They've all been bred by University of Florida. They're all bred to grow and produce well here in Florida. They are going to be your best bet for actually giving you strawberries. Now, if you have some other kind of strawberry plant that maybe you bought from a catalog, maybe you got from a big box store, and it's a variety that grows great in Ohio or New York or Georgia or somewhere north of here, the only time of year when they're going to produce probably is during the winter here. And like I said, that really, really depends on what variety it is. Our best advice for people who want to grow strawberries in general is in the late summer or fall, look online, try to find a source for those Florida strawberries and order them and put them in the ground or your towers or your raised bed or your containers, wherever you're going to grow them. They do well in all of them. Try to get them and plant them in October. And they're going to grow for a while. You're going to get your first strawberries as early as Christmas. And then after that, they're going to really start producing, and they produce really well from New Year's until now. And they'll keep producing for a little bit longer. But once we start to get into April, May, definitely June, once we're into the heat of summer, they generally don't do very well. And trying to keep them going for a number of years, you may have plants, but as you're finding out, it's going to be really, really tough to get fruit off of them. So Cindy says that she loves strawberries. Yeah, I do too. I've honestly never grown them myself. I've never ordered the plants. And I even know the University of Florida strawberry breeder. Yeah, I need to email him next year and see if he can't, sneak me a couple from, the test farms or something like that for me to field trial here in my backyard. Cindy says growing them myself seems a bit too much down here. Strawberries can be a little tough. Like I said, they do get diseases, they do get insect pests. Timing is very important. The correct variety is really important. Planting them correctly is important. When you get the transplants and you plant them, you have to plant them high. If you plant the plant too deep in the soil, it will rot very quickly and die. It gets the disease from being planted too low. So there's a lot of different little things that you need to know to be successful with strawberries. Cindy's just going to support her local farmers, and we love hearing that, and we're big supporters of local farmers also. I work a lot with our local U-Pick strawberry places here. If you live in Hernando County, if you've never had a chance to visit J&G Ranch, they are very, very nice people, and they still have strawberries right now. They are in Brooksville, right off of Wisconsin Road. So look them up, and they should be open this weekend, and they should still have strawberries. And in a couple weeks to a month or so, they will have blueberries. I was there a week or two ago shooting a video, and they have lots of blueberries on their bushes, and they have blackberries too. And they're just starting to flower, or they were a few weeks ago, and they're not going to be ready until May or maybe June. You're going to have to check with them on exactly when the blackberries are ready, but my wife has told me that we are going blackberry picking this year, so we're going to go out there and support a couple of our local U-Pick farms too. And Stephanie has a very good general question here. She says, I feel like I've started too late this year. What edibles can I plant today that will survive the upcoming heat? So Stephanie, it totally depends on exactly where in Florida you live, because we have people on here from Broward County and Southern Pinellas and down in South Florida and Central Florida. And Buddy is here from Tallahassee on a regular basis. We had somebody from Southern Alabama a few weeks ago. So it really helps if you say exactly where in Florida you live, what city or what area. But you're not too late right now, but you're going to need to hurry. Here in Central Florida, you can still put in all those warm season vegetables. If you want to grow tomatoes, peppers, or eggplants, you need to have your own transplants already started, or you need to go out and buy little plants that are already going and put them in, because if you start them from seed right now, you are a little bit too late. You can go out today and you can plant any kind of green beans, pole beans. You can still put in cucumbers, cantaloupes, watermelons, any kind of melons, any kind of squash. So that's yellow squash, zucchini squash, hard squash, winter squash like acorn squash, butternut squash, spaghetti squash, which is one of my favorites. I just planted that about a week ago. And if you get them in really soon, like by this weekend, I would say, you should still be good. Now, the cucumbers are really hard to grow. They get a lot of disease problems. They get a lot of pests. The summer squash and winter squash, they're real tough also. What's going to happen is they'll come up really quick. They'll grow really well. And you start to get a lot of brown and black spots on the leaves, and the leaves will turn brown and die. That's a fungal disease. And those plants just attract fungal diseases. You need to plan on spraying them with a fungicide on a regular basis. And you need to spray them when the plants are little, before they have a lot of spots on them. If you wait until all the leaves are brown or black, then it's too late. So Any kind of cucurbits, which is cucumbers and squash and watermelons and cantaloupes, you can grow here. And right now is when you want to plant them, but they are difficult. Even I have a tough time with them because I am just not diligent enough, I guess, to go out there and spray them when they need to be sprayed. So you really need to scout, watch the garden, have enough free time when, if you know they need to be sprayed, you're going to go out and spray them today, not next week or the week after, because at that point it may be too late. So Stephanie says that she's here in Hernando County. Perfect. Those are all the things that I'm going to put. I still need to stick in my garden, and I need to go out there and get them in really soon. I think next week I'm just going to take a bunch of pictures of everything I have on my vegetable garden and everything I've started, everything that's kind of finishing up from the winter, everything that did well. I'll even throw in pictures of things that didn't do all that well. And we'll go ahead and talk about vegetables next week. And I'll show all my pictures and hopefully give everybody some tips and some ideas about timing, because when we're talking about growing vegetables in your garden, timing is very, very important. Oh my gosh, I'm a member of so many different gardening and vegetable gardening Facebook groups, and just every day I'll go through my Facebook feed and I see all these questions. It's like, guys, you can't grow cucumbers here in June and July. It's just not going to work. You can't grow kale here in June and July. Too hot, not going to work. People love to grow things in the wrong season. And if you just grow them in the right season, if you grow lettuce during the winter, you start it in, let's say, October 1st when it's starting to cool off, plan on it being done for the year by March 1st, you can grow beautiful lettuce. But if you try to push it too far into the summer, it'll grow, but it's going to bolt. It's going to taste bad. It's going to be really, really bitter. Same thing with any kind of greens. Even collard greens, kale. People love to try to grow kale during the summer. Guys, it's just too tough. During the summer, grow okra. Okra is going to grow great during the summer. Grow okra and make gumbo during the summer. Grow kale and make lots of green smoothies all winter long. If you kind of work with nature and work with the weather that we have here, you'll find that you can grow just about everything here in Hernando County if you do it at the right time of year. If you do it the wrong time of year, you're going to be posting questions on Facebook groups, and then people are going to chime in with some of the goofiest suggestions I've ever heard in my life and some of the worst advice that I've ever read. One I saw the other day, and this was for pest control. Somebody asked the wrong question. They asked, what can I buy that's safe and organic and all natural to kill bugs? And the correct question would be, how do I learn how to identify the problems I'm having on my vegetable plants? And how can I tell if it's an insect or disease or something else? That's the correct starting point. After you know what kind of insect pest you have, then you ask, what can I use to control this insect? Not bugs. That's a little bit too general. You need to say what kind of insect. And somebody posted on there, I guess there's something online about using some concoction that involves 409, the 409 kitchen cleaner, and using that for insect control. And we don't recommend that. And common sense would tell you that 409 is probably not really safe to use on a plant in general, any kind of plant. So guys, don't think that because you put a question on a Facebook group and you get suggestions, don't think that they're always good suggestions, because when I'm scrolling through, I'm like, bad, awful, illegal, dangerous. Okay, here's somebody who got the correct answer or identified it or put the correct control advice on there. So be careful what you get off of Facebook, I guess. We have somebody else from our Facebook group who is in Broward County. Good morning. We have a lot of people from Broward County that tune in, and that's great, because even though I work in Hernando County and I don't work with South Florida timing and fruits and vegetables that much, I still know what's going on down there. They say they're growing cherry tomatoes, eggplants, cucumbers, peppers, and corn for the warm heat season. Yeah, in Broward County, you guys start earlier than we do in Hernando County. So you grow all those things, and we can grow all those things also. You just really have to have your timing down correct. And timing is based on exactly where you live in Florida or any other state. So that's great. Yours should all be up and growing and producing, and you should be picking them and eating them. And hopefully everybody down there in South Florida is going to the farmers markets on a regular basis and loading up on them. Right now is a fantastic time of year to go to farmers markets because they're harvesting so much from Florida locally that you can go and load up on it. And Dan says, I just started eggplant cuttings from last year's leftover. You can do that because eggplants and peppers and tomatoes to a certain extent, but mostly eggplants and peppers, can grow for longer than 1 year. It's tough. They suffer badly during the summer because it gets hot and humid. They have a lot of diseases and insects. They can suffer during the winter because if they're outdoors and you get a freeze, they don't survive freezes. Freezes can either damage them or kill them. But if you can keep it going, you can actually take cuttings off of them and root them and have a whole new fresh plant. So that's something that you can experiment with. It gets tough because sometimes if the plant has a bad disease and you take a cutting off of it, the cutting has a disease, you root it and plant it, now that new cutting still has that disease. Doesn't always work, but a lot of people do it successfully. Just be advised that it doesn't always work. And he says no fungus yet, which is good. This time of year, you don't see a whole lot of fungal problems because when it's sunny and warm and dry and the humidity is low a lot, that's terrible for fungi. They don't like it, but it's wonderful for all the vegetables growing in your garden. Things like eggplants and tomatoes and peppers and even cucumbers, they're going to have far fewer fungal problems than they do when it rains a lot and it's really humid. He says aphids are showing up on the loquats this week. Aphids are out there. They can be out there year round. And we have, I don't know, it's got to be like a couple dozen different species of aphids here in Florida. They could be green, brown, tan, bright orange, multicolored. So we have a variety of aphids. Insecticidal soap is going to work just fine on aphids. You really don't need anything stronger than that to control aphids. So Dan, glad to hear that your eggplants are doing well at this point. And everybody else, you can take cuttings from eggplants and peppers and tomatoes. Tomato plant cuttings root very, very easily, but it doesn't always work. So experiment, play with it. But like I said, it doesn't always work. Somebody from our Facebook group says, I'm located in northern Central Florida. Can I plant grapes here? Yes, you can. But as a general rule, they need to be some variety of muscadine grapes. And I like muscadine grapes. A lot of people don't because I think we're all spoiled on the Thompson white seedless grapes and black grapes and red grapes you buy from the grocery store. Muscadines have a thicker skin, so you end up having to spit that out. They have seeds, you have to spit those out. So obviously it's best to eat grapes on your front porch where you can spit all this stuff out. You know, spit it in your garden. It's going to help build up the soil. But muscadines grow really well in north central Florida. They grow really well in southern Georgia also. They grow them commercially up there in Georgia. But anywhere from central Florida through north Florida, muscadines do really well. Look online under University of Florida muscadine grapes. And UF has a lot of really good fact sheets that give you lists of all the different varieties. They have red varieties, black varieties, white varieties. If you want to make wine, and you can make muscadine wine, it has a list of all the different varieties that are best for winemaking, the ones that are best for fresh eating, and very importantly, how to grow them, because you want to grow them on a sturdy trellis. If you have just one or two, you could grow them on a chain link fence. But if you want to grow a lot of them, you have to put up a trellis that involves 4x4s and very stout metal wires to grow the canes and vines on. So I know that University of Florida fact sheet has all that information and diagrams and everything you need to know about growing muscadines. But yeah, you're in a perfect place for them. And Dan said he used the cuttings from tomato starts to make new plants that will go in the soil this week. Yeah, tomato plants, gosh, they root. You can literally throw them on the sidewalk and they're going to root. They root very, very easily. But you could have carryover disease problems and virus problems and this and that. If you have healthy plants, you're probably not going to have that problem. So yeah, that is a good way to save on buying seeds, starting seeds, buying transplants from stores. I know anybody here who buys vegetable starts and transplants from the big box stores, the price on them has gone through the roof. I'm surprised how expensive they are. So, you know, you can order seeds from seed catalogs and start your own seeds for all these different vegetables. It's really very easy to do. Once again, you have to start them at the right time. You have to count back further when you start the seeds in little pots in your garage so that you have healthy big transplants right now to go in the garden. So I started mine. I have tomatoes, peppers, a couple eggplants. What else do I have? I think that's about, I'm trying something new this year. I'm trying tomatillas, which the transplants are growing just great. So I have tomatillas also, and they're all pretty big. They're all like at least a foot tall right now in little pots, all ready to go in the garden really soon. So yeah, it's very, very easy to grow things from seed. You just have to get a little information on it and practice. So Dan says the lettuce is starting to bolt here. Yeah, I'm in Spring Hill in Hernando County, and my lettuce is just about to bolt. I need to go out there by this weekend and pick all my lettuce, and the kale is going to be right behind it before it all bolts. And even before it bolts, it'll start to taste bitter, and it's just not as good. So lettuce season for me is just about to end. The lettuce is all going to come up really, really soon. I'm going to put something else in. So Janice is asking about what I mentioned about growing cucumbers. You're going to have to use some type of fungicide on it. We don't really recommend any different brands, but we can tell you the active ingredient or material that you would want to use. So some really good, reliable standby fungicides that are labeled for a wide variety of fruit and vegetable crops would be things like a copper fungicide spray. And I'm not even sure exactly what brand or company would make that. When you're at the store looking at fungicides, or if you ask the clerk, where are fungicides that I can spray on my vegetables, you're going to go, well, they're on the shelf right over there. When you look at them, ignore the pretty picture on the front, ignore the colorful name that's on it, and look to the really, really small print with the ingredients and the active ingredients in it, because that's where you're going to find what's actually in it. So you can find a fungicide that has copper as the active ingredient. Different types of copper are very effective fungicides. There's another fungicide that's under the trade name of Daconil, Daconil, and that is labeled to be used on a variety of vegetables. Now, very important for any fungicide, you need to read the label, and it's going to tell you what you can spray that on. So you need to make sure it says vegetables or cucumbers or blackberries or strawberries, whatever you're going to want to spray it on, to make sure it's labeled to be used on that. If it doesn't have those on there, you can't use it on them. They do make a variety of other fungicides that are for landscape plants, roses and things like that. So if you pick up a bottle of fungicide and you look at what you can use it on, it says roses. You can't use that on your cucumbers. It's not going to be safe to use on your cucumbers. It has not been tested and evaluated and labeled to be used on cucumbers. So make sure you find the proper fungicide to use on cucumbers before you buy something and start spraying it. there's a variety of fungicides that are different active ingredients, and they're for different situations. Some are for vegetables, some are for fruit trees, some are for lawns, others are for ornamentals like roses and other flowering plants. So you have to get the correct fungicide. But for vegetables in general, take a hard look at copper fungicides and Daconil to make sure, and read the label to make sure that whatever vegetable you want to use it on is on that label. And here's something totally different from somebody with the Facebook group. If I cut down my sugarcane plants, will the plant regrow from underneath? Yes, they will. And what this is called, gosh, I haven't had to deal with sugarcane for a long time. That's called a ratoon. So commercial sugarcane growers will plant sugarcane. And what they do is they take a sugarcane shoot or stalk, and they take it and they cut it off. And if you dig a little trench and throw it in the trench and cover it with dirt, at every little division on the stalk, it's going to get new roots and a new shoot. So if you take a long sugarcane stalk and bury it in a trench, you're going to have, I don't know, 5 or 10 different little sugarcane plants all come up. So commercial growers grow it, it gets big, and they cut it down. That's the first ratoon. They take those sugarcane stalks, they process it, they squeeze the sugar out, they make sugar for you and me to buy at the grocery store. The sugarcane grows back again. They do the same thing, cut them off. That's the second ratoon. You could do that 10 times maximum before the plants start to get really, really played out and not as healthy, not as productive. So after a certain point, after a certain number of ratoons, they go, okay, these plants, the roots, the underground part are spent, they're done. We're going to dig them up. We're going to plant fresh sugarcane out in the field and start the whole process over again. So to answer your question, if you have sugarcane plants, yes, you can cut them off at the ground level and they will grow back. And you could do that a few times, but eventually diseases and root rot problems are going to set in, and the plants that come back after a couple times are not going to be as healthy. But if you do it just once, that's fine. The plants are with new fresh crop of sugar. And let me click a few times here. Heidi is asking another question here. Good morning, Heidi. She says, is there a date to pull out tomatoes to avoid inviting pests into the rest of the garden? As a general rule, yes, there is. And it's not because the tomatoes are really attracting other pests to your garden. It's because your spring warm season garden is done. And as a general rule, for me, that date is about June 15th. So by June 15th, it's getting hot and it's getting sunny and we're in the rainy season, and you start to get those nighttime rains and the humidity is like 99% all day, every day. And all your different warm season spring vegetables, they're just going to be done. They're going to be, you're already hopefully got a good harvest off of them. They're going to start getting a lot of disease problems. And people struggle to keep them going during the summer. But what happens is they start throwing extra water on them and extra fertilizer and lots of insecticides to deal with the insects and lots of fungicides. And it's after June 15th, it's kind of a hopeless situation. They're going to decline and they're not going to do well. And you're going to get very, very few tomatoes after that. Yeah, sure, you're going to get some. Cherry tomatoes hold on longer. The really, really big heirloom tomatoes, they're always the first to go. They generally, by June, between June 1st and 15th, they take a dive. They're gone. So you can keep some of them going a little bit longer. But what I try to do is by June 15th, my spring vegetables are done and they go. They're gone. What I'm going to do this summer is put in a cover crop. And we'll have one of our plant clinics or classes coming up on cover crop because that's a whole separate discussion and situation. And I'm going to try growing a cover crop over the summer to help build up my soil. I'm going to take the cover crop in the fall. I'm going to chop it up. I'm going to turn it over. And then my soil is going to start to look good instead of like beach sand, which it still looks like now because it's still a pretty new garden. Or if you really want to grow something in your garden this summer, okra is something that you can grow. Most people don't like okra so much that they are going to eat bushels of it, but you could grow bushels of okra if you want. It grows great during the summer. And there's a couple other tropical vegetables that you can grow during the summer that take the heat pretty well. Seminole pumpkin, which is a hard winter squash, does really well during the heat of summer. One of the very, very few things that does. And a few other things, but you're really, really limited what you can grow during the heat of summer. And they tend to be kind of unusual vegetables. You may want to go to a specialty grocery store or ethnic grocery store and try eating it first to make sure you like it before you grow a whole bunch. Chayote squash, that's Chayote, and people call it chayote or coyote squash, is a tropical summer squash. It's kind of like yellow squash, and it's light green and shaped a little funny, and it grows in a vine. It doesn't mind the heat. It's tropical, so it's going to grow during the summer. You probably want to try one and cook it and make sure you like it. There's recipes online for it. I've eaten it before. I like it myself, but maybe not everybody does. So there are a few options out there, but your traditional cucumbers, tomatoes, summer squash, watermelon, cantaloupe, especially cucumbers by June 15th, they are going to be really, really, really struggling, and it's going to be a struggle to get anything more out of it. And Heidi, okay, you've already tried it, chayote or coyote. It's great in the soup. I've cooked it before. It's just a side vegetable. It's really good. It's good if you put a lot of garlic and pepper and other kind of Cuban spices on it. I'm sure there's some really good Cuban recipes for it. What's something else that you can grow during the summer? There's a couple of different root crops that you can grow during the summer too. I think Stephanie asked about pigeon peas. I think that takes the heat pretty well. There's another one. It's winged peas. That's another tropical vegetable. Everglades tomatoes is a variety of tomatoes that takes the heat well. It's not guaranteed to make it through the summer and do really well. It's not completely immune to all the same problems that other tomatoes have, diseases and insect pests. So it's going to be a lot of work and maybe a struggle, but Everglades tomatoes, it's a variety of cherry tomato, and it'll produce during the heat of summer fairly well. So there are some things that you can keep going through the summer, but I always try to caution people, if it gets to the point where you find yourself dumping a lot of fertilizer and pest controls on it, maybe it's time to cut your losses and do like Heidi does here and grow chaya and katuk. Those are a few other things. I'll put together a class on that sometime really soon, because I guess we are getting close enough to summer where people need to think, what am I going to do after the spring things are done, middle of June? What else can I actually grow in my yard to get something that I can eat? Yeah, I'll definitely plan on a class or a couple classes with all the different oddball things. And I know chaya is a leafy plant. Some people say it tastes like spinach. Other people say it doesn't taste like spinach. It doesn't taste very good. I guess it's an acquired taste, but it's a leafy plant where it grows during the summer. You can eat the leaves. So it is an option. Dan says, yeah, pigeon peas and papayas. If you want to grow papayas, the best thing to do is what I did, plant the seeds in the fall and grow them in little pots and get them up and going all winter long. When it gets really cold, bring them in. When it's sunny and warm, put them out and get yourself some nice, decent-sized papaya transplants and put them in the ground now because they love it when it gets hot and rainy and steamy. They love it during the summer. So papayas are going to be something that does well during the summer. And pigeon peas, I believe, do well in the heat also. Pigeon peas are very important in Cuban and South American cuisine. You can kind of look at whatever kind of things are used in tropical South and Central America, Cuban, Caribbean island cuisine. That's probably something that does well in hot, steamy weather and might be a good choice for here during the heat of summer. So, from our Facebook group, Filipinos called coyote or chayote or however you want to say it, sayote. Okay, sayote. See, I learned something today. That's the nice thing about my job. I learn something new pretty much every single day. So I'm going to start calling it sayote. And I think I'm going to go to the store and buy one. And it's very, very easy. You can go to the store if you can find them at the store, buy one, cut it open, take the seeds out and plant them. And they're going to come up. They come up just great. And you can put them in your garden. I think I need to go to the store this week and get one and try it myself. So I'll kind of keep you updated on how well that works. And I see by my little clock here, it is pushing just about 11 o'clock. So I need to wrap this up because I have another meeting at 11-ish, I think. And Dan points out, Cuban oregano. Yes, that is another thing that I have growing in my yard. Growing the Cuban oregano. And if you use that on pork roast on the grill, along with tons of garlic and pepper, that's good stuff. And Cuban black beans and rice. I think we're going to have to kind of branch out and start a regular cooking show on here also. A little weekly cooking class if you guys want to start thinking about all the different ethnic recipes you might want to share. And Suriname spinach, yeah, there's Suriname spinach and about a half a dozen other green leafy things that grow well during the summer that you really, really want to try first, because I caution people, just because you can grow it doesn't mean you're going to like eating it. So if you don't like radishes, don't grow too many radishes during the winter. If you don't like different Suriname spinach and this and that, but it's definitely worth trying. Hey, try some, try eating it. Either you're going to love it or you're going to hate it, and that way you know what to grow for next year. How else do you think I learned all this stuff, and how else do you think you're going to learn all this also? Annie, good morning, Annie. How are you? She says Cuban oregano grows like crazy. It does, and it does just great during the summer. It really doesn't mind the heat. So, Nora, thank you. Lots of great information. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in here. And let me roll through my contact information again here real quick. If you want to see any of our upcoming classes, just go to that link and check on that. And one more time, if you have any other questions or pictures and you want to email me, it's wlester@ufl.edu. And with that, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. I will be back next week. Lily will be back again with me next week. And I think this weekend I'm just going to take a whole bunch of pictures of what I am doing out in my vegetable garden. And we'll go ahead and share them next week. And from work, I got, I'm not sure if you can see this on the camera okay or not, but I got a brand new GoPro. So I think I need to break it in this weekend and get some nice vegetable garden video to share next week. So with that, everybody, thanks again. We will see you here again next Thursday at 10 a.m. See you then.